Let's go. I'm very tired. Oh boy. Let's go. It's Q&A time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages. We're going to get into this Q&A. We seem to have a pretty healthy selection of questions. Let's I saw questions coming in just about an hour ago. So, I know that a lot of people probably got an opportunity to uh to jump in. So, we're going to get right into this thing rather than waiting around because I got a video going up at 10 o'clock. So I would like to get this thing done with before. Um, we start at the very beginning with a very stupid question. Islamic State says, "Do you think Dave Batista and MVP are gay lovers?" I don't I don't understand where this question would come from or why it would be asked, but no, I don't think that they're gay lovers. I think Batista has a different gay lover. Mr. VXG, who do you want to produce the Diddy and Kanye movies? I do not think there needs to be Diddy and Kanye movies. There probably will be a Diddy movie or a television show or something. The Diddy trial seems to me like it's going to end up being like OJ, where it's going to be a big hullabaloo when it's all over, one way or the other. It seems like it's going to be a big deal in terms of movies and TV. Mitch Colburn asked about Daphne, but I did a video on Daphne, so we can skip that one. 305 Johnny has three questions. One, when Trump presidency is over, when all the influencers' stocks and views decrease while he's gone? I think so. I think that we kind of saw that a little bit when he was out of office. Quite a few people, and it wasn't just the influencers and the YouTube guys. It was also major media, MSNBC, CNN, etc. They had built almost a decade around Obama, and things was looking quite dismal. And then all of a sudden, Trump showed up, and Trump was a major draw for television. That's why they talked about him so much on the news, and it's why they consistently talk about him so much on the news. I don't know what they're going to do when he's not in office anymore. They're going to have something's going to have to jump up and save them because politics is not that popular, you know. So it is 100% Donald Trump, and sometimes you'll have a really famous president, like an Obama. Like Obama and Trump are like TV draws. Biden clearly was hiding in a bunker for 4 years, so I don't think so. And people did not want to talk about Kamala Harris. They didn't even want to talk to Kamala Harris. So I'm thinking that they're probably going to try to find somebody very charismatic, specifically on the Democrat side, and really try to hype them up. So it'll probably be that goofball over in Florida, not Florida, but I'm sorry, California. 305 Johnny has a second question. Why AEW WWE creative is dying under Tony Khan and TKO? Um, it's bland. It's too safe. Everybody seems to have this quote unquote logical booking, and it's just meaning that they're boring booking, and that's a huge problem. I don't care what you do on the show, as long as it's not boring. And this stuff is boring. They create a boring product, but see, boring products are good for sponsors and families and things like this. I'm gonna talk about this when I do the Muhammad Hassan video, which I'm probably gonna do after this because there's not a lot to talk about there. But so it might be up tomorrow. But a boring product is good for sponsors and it's good for the company because they can consistently make money without anybody ever being offended or upset too much. And that's bad for us because as wrestling fans, we want something to be excited over. And sometimes, in order for people to get excited about things, some feathers need to be ruffled. But these companies refuse to do it. 305 Johnny's third question. If you were booking TNA wrestling, what would you change, investing, or bankruptcy? Well, if I was in charge of TNA, I wouldn't want the company to go bankrupt. What would I change? I would change the roster. I'll also change the focus of the company. You know, one thing TNA has got over, like you have to realize where TNA is. I call TNA a mid-tier promotion. All right, it's not. They don't have the money that AEW and WWE has. Right, they're a solid C-tier company. They draw very well sometimes. Sometimes they draw very poorly. But the thing that TNA has, they have three things that are very important. One, they have history. They've been around for 20 years. Two, they have television. So there should be tons of indie wrestlers willing to sign up just to get on TV. And the third thing that they have is that they can help with character development. And they have that relationship with the WWE. And before they had a relationship with New Japan. They have relationships with AAA. They have, inroads to other places. So TNA needs to learn how to leverage those things because TNA is not a destination. It's just a stop now. Whoever you sign, you're probably going to have them a year, 2 years at the most, and then they're going to get out of there. They need to bump up their pay until it's above fucking GCW, and then bring in indie wrestlers, establish them for 2 or 3 years, and then just assume that they're going to get taken at about the second or third year mark. But if you choose to reframe your company, instead of it being a rest haven for old folks like Rhino and Eddie Edwards, if you turn it into a place where young talent can get TV experience, work pay-per-views, do a shot or two in NXT, do a shot or two in AAA, and then maybe the doors will open in AEW or something like that, that would be great. Because I have a feeling Josh Alexander would not be in AEW if it wasn't for his run in TNA. He hadn't worked anywhere else, and he wasn't really a big name on the indies. So that's what I would do. I would be looking at some of the cards of these indie shows and bringing in a lot of the talented guys from there. Mr. VXG has another question. How good was Prime Okada? Was he really on the level of Roman and Cena? If Prime Okada was in WWE, would he be a main eventer, mid-carder, or in catering? Well, it's hard to translate what Okada could do into a WWE setting because I think that he is very much a robot built for that system. If you were to take him out of that system and take him to WWE, where he would have had to, one, learn English, two, actively go in long form stories. He wouldn't have won every match. His matches would not have been 30 minutes apiece. So a lot of what got Okada over would not have worked in WWE. Because a lot of the matches that Okada gets a lot of rave reception for, those matches are 30, 40 minutes. I think one of those matches with Kenny Omega is like over 40 minutes. So, and there's no way Vince McMahon was going to allow him to do a 40-minute match on WWE TV. Get real. There was no way that was going to happen. And he was going to have to work with a different level of opponent. He's going to have to learn how to work with the Jinder Mahals, the great Khalis, and all those kinds of guys he didn't have to worry about in Japan, really. So if he were in WWE, I don't think he would have been a main event guy because his skill set was his strong suit, the in-ring prowess. Maybe if he'd have got, a solid push, he might have been a solid main event guy. But when it comes to charisma, he's behind Nakamura, and you see how far Nakamura got, But it's hard to say. It's hard to translate Japanese guys to the United States because of the skill set. And it's what's needed to succeed in Japan versus what's needed to succeed in America is very different. I don't think he would have been as big as the Great Muta, though. I think he would have been under Muta. He wouldn't have made it to the level of Liger. He might have been a decent star though, but it depends on how his English would have developed. Um, Deontay Belladonna says, since Julia pinned Zelina, I would like her to become the number one contender for Zelina's U.S. Women's Championship and actually beat her for the title. That could be a great start to Julia's main roster run. That wouldn't be a bad start to her run. Unfortunately, um, it would cut short. Well, I don't think the company cares too much for Zelina anyway. We're being honest, but yeah, I don't see a problem with Julia being the U.S. champion. I like that idea actually. It's about time for that title to be established, and Julia could be just the girl to establish that belt. Because Chelsea Green is personality, not much in the ring, just all personality. Zelina Vega, she's got charisma, but people are struggling to get into her, and they're not really leaning into her strong suits. But I think Julia has enough physical charisma and work rate that she could really carry that belt. Um, the only problem with that is you have people may see her as like Io or Asuka. You'll have to basically individualize her quite a bit because they'd be like, "This another Japanese girl." Big Armada um, has two questions. One, thoughts on Camille as a talent. From the time I saw her in the early days of the NWA relaunch in 2017, I always felt like she was born in the wrong era of professional wrestling. I started watching the Queen of the Ring movie you recommended, and after seeing a few scenes with her in it, it confirmed my thoughts on that. I said before, well, she's better now than she was in 2017. In 2017, I was calling her Girl Sheamus because it seemed like her moveset was very much inspired by Sheamus. And she was very much like a giraffe on stilts to a degree. Once she got really good, though, as the champion, I think she was a pretty good female wrestler. The only problem I have is, the lemonade, the voice that she's got there. Um, she has that very thick Southern accent. She should be wearing cowboy boots. I think if she would have been given like the um the Southern Belle character that they gave to Lacey Evans, it would fit. Like she wouldn't need to do like a exaggerated accent at all. Um, but I like Camille. She's got height, which is very important for a woman. She has a nice build. Um, to me, if you were to compare Camille, she would do well in WWE. I think. She's a bigger girl. She can stand in there like Rhea and Bianca. And if she were in AEW right now, it'd be pretty fun to see her against Statlander or um, or Megan Bain. She has some size on her, and that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. Um, but it's been a while since I've really seen what she can do, and she was decent in that movie, wasn't she? His second question, I admit you were right in the beginning about John Cena's heel run. It's not getting any better, and I'm beginning to think they should cut their losses with the heel run and try to find a way back to babyface sooner rather than later. If they did do this, what would you recommend they do with Cena for the rest of his last run? The rest of the last run, depending on when they turn him, I think that you need to turn him back with enough time to do redemption. I think that's where you do it. You have some level of redemption here when it comes to John Cena, but it depends on when you do the flip. I think his final match is in Boston in December. I think it's gonna be a Saturday night's main event or something like that. Um, you got to do it before that, So maybe they flip him in October. I think they're probably gonna flip him in October and spend the rest of that time with John Cena being a babyface the last 2 months of his career. 305 Johnny is back. He's got 5 more questions. He says, one, how far do you think black people falling in the diaspora? I don't understand this question. How far do you think black people are falling? uh, in the diaspora. I don't know. I don't know, like, because the diaspora just assumes all these people are black, Jamaicans and Haitians and Brazilians and Cubans, all this kind of stuff. But I don't know, like, you mean Black Americans? And what do you mean by falling? Because Black Americans are richer than all of those people. I don't know. I don't know what the question is. 2, how many more victims of P. Diddy you expect to testify against him? I expect them to manufacture victims at some point, But I think Cassie was the star witness, and I don't think it matters that much after Cassie. Well, in terms of the public, I don't think the public cares that much after Cassie. But they're probably going to pull in some. I think they pulled in his assistant. They're probably going to pull in a couple of more people who say Diddy did some of these horrible things. Of course, none of this stuff has anything to do with sex trafficking, applesauce on hamburgers, weird shit like that. 3, with Vince McMahon not in charge anymore, who do you think is going to fill the void? Well, they seemingly have split his job into 2 pieces. The creative piece that he really loved is Triple H, and then the executive part is Nick Khan. So those are the 2 guys filling the void. I don't know if they're doing a good job though, if you're being honest. 4, what is the blue plant in filmmaking after Senate success? I guess you mean blueprint. In filmmaking after Center success. I think the one thing that Centers did better than most is they told black stories and they made them interesting. It wasn't now if they would have made that movie without the inclusion of the Ku Klux Klan, it would have told people that you can make it an interesting horror movie about black people in a setting that features black people, surrounding black culture, and didn't have to center racism. But instead, they shoved goddamn the KKK in there. So now you can't talk about black people without talking about the KKK, for God's sake. You think that was everybody's life. It wasn't, trust me. But what we got going on here in terms of the blueprint, I think it should tell people to take more chances, um, to build more stories on black history and black culture. But of course, it just means build more shit around more racism, which is unfortunate. 5, what advice do you give to people when discussing their depression? The thing about depression is compliments don't work. So you can't just tell them, oh, everybody loves you, everybody cares about you, because it's about how they feel about themselves, quite often. It's one of those things where you certainly have to get to the source of it. And depression is one of those things where it looks so different depending on the person. Um, and that's one thing I really learned a lot about. Like, we all have this sort of conception of depressed people that is very stereotypical. They're matted hair, dirty, they sleep all the time. They were incredibly withdrawn. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. But then you would see like this normal hood looking dude, and he just bursts into tears for no reason. Like he gets to talking about something and he just starts crying, you know? And it could be something that, you know, um, like he can't handle basic pressure, you know? Like asking him basic questions just bust him into tears. And you realize, like, man, depression is like one of those, all mental illnesses, they come out in so many different ways, but it's definitely depends on what kind of depression they have. Because some people have depression and they get violent, they lash out. Quite often people will be depressed, they'll be talking about hurting themselves. But what you don't understand is they might have depression and they lash out and try to hurt other people to get people to retaliate. And that's that suicide by cop mentality, right? They also do it to other people too. They don't just do it to cops. I've seen people with severe depression pick fights, and they'll do it to, so they be assaulted and beat up. It's a way of self-harming, you know? So it definitely depends on what the source of the depression is and how medicated the person is. But depression is like one of the my least favorite things to deal with. I hate dealing with people with depression. It sucks. Um, I don't like bipolar either. Like I'm not a big fan of either one of those things. But if I had to have a choice, I probably, well, depending on if they have psychosis with their bipolar, because I don't like fucking with that. I don't like that at all. But depression is tough because the person doesn't really want to communicate. You know, they don't really want to talk. They want to be left alone most often. Most depressive people, they don't want to talk. They don't want to get out of bed. They don't want to do anything. So talking to them is difficult. It's hard, but that mood ability that comes labile nature of people with bipolar disorder. Oh God, no, I hate that shit. Dennis King, he has 3 questions. 1, what are your thoughts on John Laurinaitis flipping on Vince? I'm gonna skip this because the video's coming out in a few minutes, like an hour or two. 2, should Carmelo Hayes win Money in the Bank? Well, I'm in favor of Carmelo Hayes winning Money in the Bank. Uh, I don't know what else. Everything seems to lean towards Seth Rollins winning Money in the Bank, as far as I'm concerned right now. Looking at things right now, it's looking like Carmelo Hayes is just going to be in the match, and that Seth Rollins is going to win it. Question 3: if you were booking Austin Theory, how would you get him over as a face or a heel, or what would you do to get him over as a face or a heel? That's interesting because that basically means like what kind of character or gimmick do you think would work? Well, I think he's a naturally likable guy, and I think that he really started to get over in the way when he was doing that storyline with them. He was a goofball heel. He looks like, the generic high school quarterback. Everybody likes that guy though. Like he's a douchebag sometimes, but generally people like that guy. He's a people person, and that's what it seems like Austin Theory is. Like you see him taking pictures with fans or something like that. It seemed like he was trying very hard to not be liked and to get people to hate him. But he seemed like he might be a natural babyface. I'm not sure though, because I haven't seen him work babyface. I've only seen him work heel and evolve. But he was very much a try hard heel in evolve, and he's very much a try hard heel in the main roster. I think Vince did a good job because he he took some of the goofy elements of Austin Theory and let him be goofy, and him being a sort of goofy yet confident heel and cocky, it helped people to hate him. And but I think that his benefits might be to being a baby face, and I don't want to say that he could possibly be your next. I don't want to say next John Cena, but like your next Randy Orton, where he's good in the ring, and that might be something that you can lean on. But he's certainly going to need like something. There's got to be something in his background that you could play with. But he's another one of those guys who was like Darby Allin. Like he's always wanted to be a wrestler. He's never done anything else. So it's like, fuck, good luck trying to find something that this guy's good at, that you could play off of that's not going to make him look like a dork. Next, Dr. Doom 3 has I don't know, this is one question, but it might be like a long question. 1, do you think it's possible to fix the Cena heel turn? Now, apparently, there's rumors The Rock will be back around SummerSlam. Something that I think they should have leaned into more about Cena is how he felt during the years he was booed. and how it affected him personally. I know he received death threats at a few arenas and said they'd riot if he won. That would affect anybody. See, if John Cena had turned heel and then mentioned that stuff, like he's talking about being in an abusive relationship, he should have just said, "You guys have been threatening to hurt yourselves and destroy buildings for 20 years. You've been booing me. You hate me. You don't really like me." So there's other elements for him to lean into, but the problem is he got over. That's the main issue is you can't turn him the way that they turned him because for the last 5 or 6 years, since 2015 at the very least, he's been beloved. So it's difficult to play the card that they're playing now because it's been so long. So my only thing is that they should have played into the fact that he left. He should have become the guy that you see in these interviews, wearing a suit with his hair slicked back, being a completely different person, completely detached from the John Cena he was before, you know, basically playing the game that he's grown up. He doesn't need this company anymore. He doesn't need these children anymore. He doesn't need to do all this stuff. You know, he can still do the whole "I'm the last real champion," blah blah blah. He can still do all that, but I think they couldn't do that because they had made all this fucking merchandise that they have to sell, and obviously he was turned at the last minute, so they didn't really plan it all the way through. What a disaster this thing has turned into. But if they'd actually planned it from the beginning to turn him heel, I would have had Cena turn completely. You know, I would have told him, go out there and be Vince McMahon. Whatever you think Vince McMahon would say in that moment, that's what you should say. We're going to replace Vince McMahon with you, with John Cena. You're going to be the voice of Vince McMahon. You're going to go out there. You're going to call people bums, say they shouldn't be here. The guys like Sami Zayn, because people hate that indie wrestling shit. When you go in there and you talk down to indie wrestlers, that would have been the first thing I would have done with John Cena, is had him talk down to guys like Kevin Owens and CM Punk and say, these guys had no business being here. If I had control of this company, those fucking guys would never would have been here. They're all bums. They're out of shape. They're walking around in t-shirts. All the whole 9 yards. I would have just had him tear into those fucking guys. And when it comes to the kids and everything, just say basically, I've grown up. There's so many different ways you could have gone with that. They went with a way I wouldn't have even considered and then botched it. Dr. Doom has other questions. His second question is, how would you make the current product more interesting? Triple H seems to not do fun segments outside of the ring or over the top storylines. One of the things that I just read a crazy tweet that it feels real to me. I don't believe it, but it feels real to me. I don't think TKO will let him get away with it. But I'm hearing that Triple H doesn't like Money in the Bank and would like to get rid of it. And this is a tweet from a random guy. I don't know how true that is. Think about that for a second. If that were true, that Triple H would see that this Money in the Bank concept makes them so much money. But because it interferes with his style of storytelling, he doesn't like it. Well, that should tell you right there what's the problem. He has a problem with spontaneity. He has a problem with creativity. He has a problem with the anything can happen nature of pro wrestling. You need to re-inject that. You don't need to go so far that it's Vince Russo, but you have to go to the point where unexpected things occur. Because it's a business predicated on getting a lot of attention. And when you try to get a lot of attention, you want to do little things. Like, you don't want to do like really stupid things. You don't want like Akira Tozawa to beat Jey Uso on TV for the title and then be like, look, you guys wanted to do something interesting. It's like, nah, don't be retarded. You know? Like, you don't got to be a complete and total moron, but you can make these things a lot more interesting. You could do a title switch on TV. You could do a surprise. Like, again, the JC Jane title switch on NXT was a complete and total surprise to everybody. And looking at all the takes, some people are saying comparing it to Jinder Mahal. Some people comparing it to, they're killing the women's division at NXT. What are they doing? She's a mid-carder. She's a jobber, blah, 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 blah. But the whole point of this thing is people are talking about it. More people are talking about it now than when Stephanie beat Jordan Grace on Sunday. People were talking about that too because it was a good match. But more people are talking about this because it was a surprise and nobody expected it. And it's a sensible surprise because JC Jane is not that far down on the totem pole. So it's not totally out of the ordinary. But now people are interested in what's happening next. That's the bread and butter of pro wrestling. You plant some seeds and let's see what grows from the seed that you planted. Building anticipation for things, throwing monkey wrenches into plans. Like one of the things that I mentioned, and I'm going to connect it to that Money in the Bank thing, is I believe on Monday, I said, what if Penta won the Money in the Bank and cashed it in Mexico? And not he cashed it in at the last minute, but he tells you on Monday Night Raw, I want a challenge for the WWE Championship at Triple Mania. That means whoever the champion is has to go to Mexico and wrestle for the title. That would be wonderful for the AAA partnership. The WWE fans will now have to watch the AAA show to see what happened. Win or lose, especially if he wins, you make a whole new star in Penta. The guy's going to become a fucking international celebrity if he fucking wins. He becomes a national hero in Mexico if he wins the WWE Championship in Mexico. But all in all, it's fun. It's interesting. It's something that's never been done before. It's thinking outside of the box. But Triple H would never do anything like that because he's got his mindset on these are his top guys, Gunther and Seth Rollins and Punk and this guy and this guy and this guy. And it's like, oh God, who cares? Who gives a shit, really? We've been watching these fucking guys for over a year. Seth Rollins has been around for a decade. If you can't get him over, if he ain't over now, shit, he ain't gonna get over. Okay, if he ain't over after 10 years, he ain't gonna get over. There's pay-per-views from 2015 that feature Seth Rollins in the main event. If he ain't over now, he ain't gonna get over. Take a chance and let's go in a different direction with somebody else. And not only just talking about Penta. I'm saying anybody else. Not anybody. But let's take some chances. Let's try to make some new stars. Let's do some interesting things. Like there's some like he even has the tag team titles on the New Day. Like what year is it? The New Day? What? Come on, man. That's the stuff that's the problem. And yes, you do want more skits and, better characters and all this kind of stuff, but there's basic things you could do to freshen up the roster, to freshen up the championship scene, to engage more of the audience, engage more of the fans. That could be fun. That Triple H just will not do. He's ridiculous for it. 3, would you agree TKO getting WWE was a mistake? Well, it's depending on your investment. If you did well on your investment, then no, it wasn't a mistake. If your investments have gone down, then no, it wasn't a mistake. For For us as a fan, yeah, because now people who don't know anything about running the company are running the company. From a fan's perspective, TKO, Mark Shapiro especially, he's worse than Vince. You know, I mean, the shows have become, even the pay-per-views now have become 60 to 70% commercials. I mean, it's nonsense, and you can tell that they're involved with the creative vision because Mark Shapiro talked about low volume pay-per-views, meaning not that many matches on the card because you don't have to pay so many talent for showing up. So that means we can make more money by paying fewer talent. I mean, it's just bullshit. I'm not a big fan of this whole TKO thing. And I agree with the UFC fans who are kind of pissy about how they ruin UFC. But on a positive note, I don't think these companies are going to be linked together for forever. I think that maybe, who knows how long, I'm saying about 10 years maybe, but they're going to eventually cough up both UFC and WWE probably, I would imagine. Because both companies are going to peak eventually. And nobody's going to know how to turn the nose up on that thing because they'd run it into the ground. But we'll see when we get there. Hopefully not, though, because I love WWE. Everybody knows that. Four, what do you think of modern wrestlers saying this era of wrestling or WWE is better than any other era? Well, I think that's their ego talking. You know, I don't think anybody from the Attitude Era came out and said that, what they were doing was better than what Randy Savage and Jake the Snake Roberts and Roddy Piper was doing. I think that's just a lot of people's egos and a lot of people being insecure. 5, what are your favorite promo guys in the business? Today or all time? Because today, uh, oof, the promos today are tough to get through, brother. I can't even hold you up. MJF is a solid promo, but he lands on too many tropes. He screams, he starts getting vulgar, he curses too much, and the Sailoristic cursing is kind of embarrassing because it's very try hard. There's not a lot of really strong promos. I think Trick Williams is a pretty strong promo. Carmelo Hayes is coming along as a promo. It's very few guys that I really enjoy listening to them on the mic. Very few. King Travis, what old school anime movie VHS did you enjoy? Oh, Ninja Scroll. It's one of the first movies I saw. One of the first anime movies I saw was Ninja Scroll. We got it from Blockbuster, if I remember correctly. I think Young Certs rented it from Blockbuster. I don't know what we thought it was, but I remember when we watched it and we were like, holy shit, what is that? The anime bug didn't quite catch him like it did for me, but I was like, holy shit. It was one of the first DVDs I bought too. It was Ninja Scroll. When I first started buying DVDs, one of the first ones I bought was Ninja Scroll because that movie it affected me so much. But what else? What other anime VHS did I have? Well, that was a rental. I think we may have rented Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell didn't quite get it because it was very intellectual, and it's difficult for you to even get today. Like it's hard for me to even. Speaking of which, I was supposed to do a digging into Ghost in the Shell. Like I read the manga, the first part of the manga, and of course I've seen the movie, and I was supposed to watch the Scarlett Johansson movie, but I never got around to doing it. So maybe I'll watch that movie over the weekend, and we'll talk a little bit about Ghost in the Shell. But I think I may have seen Ghost in the Shell on tape, but I'm not sure. Degenerate Sharingan, he has 3 questions. 1, thoughts on the Joey Badass versus TDE / Kendrick affiliates battle. I like Joey Badass. I've always been a fan of Joey Badass up to his first album. That's when, after that first album, I kind of stopped listening to rap as much, and he kind of just drifted away. But the pro era mixtapes and stuff like that, I like those things. Seeing him sharpen his iron on these guys has been pretty fun. But nobody can convince me that they like Daylight. Like Daylight's the shits, man. Like, and he's a weirdo. You know. The problem is there's so many of these TDE guys, and I don't really care about any of them. So I'm kind of biased in so much that I do like Joey Badass. Christ consciousness and waves, and you know, um, my youth, and the Badass album. There's just so many joints on there that I like. And then these other guys are just a bunch of guys I never heard of. So they already behind the eight ball, and nothing I heard was very impressive. But I knew they were going to go and talk about Capital Steez, who killed himself over. I think was it over a girl? I think he killed himself over a girl. This was in like 2011 or 2012 or something like that. It was over 10 years ago. I knew dudes were going to go there, but that's the only thing you can really go on. And the fact that he probably does more acting now than he did rapping. He was on Mr. Robot. I'm talking about Joey Badass now. He was on Mr. Robot. Now he's on Power, I think. But he's on like he's on one of these Power shows, or was it BMF? I don't know. All that shit looks the same to me. But he seemed to be, the acting bug seems to have taken over. But I like that Joey Badass is reasserting himself in the rap conversation, because Pro Era had their time when guys like Kendrick was coming up, when Big Crit was coming up, when Drake was already there, kind of. Like 2011, 2012, Drake was kind of already there. The Cash Money boost had really, doing all these songs with Lil Wayne, had kind of taken them to the next level. But you had guys like Joey Badass and Kendrick Lamar and Big Crit and J. Cole, and you could really only hear their shit if you listen to like live mixtapes, right? Or you was on Dat Piff. And it took me a while to realize, like, that was over a decade ago, man. Like, those guys used to be young and hungry, and all of them are still pretty good. Even though stylistically I don't like J. Cole that much anymore. Um, and I really not really a huge fan of Kendrick anymore either. But I respect Kendrick's art. It's just some of the stuff that he talks about I don't really care about, and I don't like the voices and a lot of the Eminem shit that he does. But I'm glad Joey Badass has reasserted himself as a rapper. I do like that. 2, can you see WrestleMania 42 being held in Saudi or Las Vegas or somewhere else? Well, I think it's already been. If Saudi drops $500 million, it's going to Saudi, and you're going to have WrestleMania at 11 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon or something like that. I would not be mad, because as long as I'm watching WrestleMania via TV or whatever, I don't care where you have the show. If we're being honest, I really don't give a shit where you have it. So ultimately, it don't matter. I think people, they want to be mad about something, but I don't see why you would be mad if it's in Saudi Arabia. I don't see why you would be mad if it was in Las Vegas. I understand that the people of New Orleans are mad because it was taken away from them. But if you're not going to go to the show anyway, why do you care where they hold it? I don't give a fuck if they have WrestleMania on the moon. 3, thoughts on Maryland Governor Wes Moore turning down Maryland reparations and how Black YouTube is kind of going after him. Well, it seems to me like they were doing one of these goofy things that they do all the time. I'm not going to lie and say I know a lot about this, but it sounds like some of the things that I've heard recently, where they're having these reparation studies, and they're basically just giveaways to college professors who are going to study how you can do reparations. And he seemed to have shut that down. And the idea is there's a lot of blacktivist YouTubers, a lot of blacktivist TikTokers who are taking this reparations thing very seriously. And look, it's a joke. The reparations thing, if it ever happens, because you can never put anything past a socialist at this point. It's going to bankrupt the nation or bankrupt whatever state implements it. And then all of a sudden, it's never going to be the end of it. They're going to say it wasn't enough. It's never enough. When the goal is to destroy, the goal is not to build. The goal is to destroy. That's what they want. If they wanted to build something, they could have built it by now. And by they, I mean the people who are begging for reparations. If you'd have put that same effort towards a hospital or a school or something like that, you probably have better outcomes. You wouldn't need reparations. But they put all this money into activism and petitioning the government to, study more reparation studies. It's a waste of time. I think he was smart to get rid of it because they're not even doing it in California. It's that stupid. But they're going to waste everybody's time talking about it because Democrats are going to have to be forced to run on it. And eventually you're going to get yourself probably a fat black woman who's going to run out there and talk about reparations right now. And she's going to get voted in and probably try to do it because they make black women the face of a lot of their degeneracy and very stupid ideas. This is why so many of them end up going to prison afterwards. Like all of those black female prosecutors that they sicked on Trump that turned around and now all of a sudden they're in legal hot water over dumb shit that they did. It's like they don't realize that they're being used as pawns. But it's unfortunate. Mr. VXG has another question. What is your favorite rap rivalry and diss song? That's a good question. I think the easy answer is Jay-Z and Nas. But I think probably one of the best is Jadakiss and Beanie Siegel. And the freestyle that Beanie Siegel did, Jada, pink it or kiss, no matter how I think of it, I think of a bitch. No matter how I switch it up, I think of an act. What's the next one? But just those opening bars right there is nuts. Because, Jada, kiss, Jada, pink it, bitch, act. Oh, that shit is crazy. And it was just crazy. Like, I remember when I first got the DVD, not the DVD, the CD with that joint on it. I was like, holy shit, man. I was already a Beanie Siegel fan, but I was like, holy shit. That's when I started going and buying his albums. I think he might have only had one album out at the time. No, he might have had two, because he might have had the State Property album out by that time. I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy Beanie Siegel albums now. I just liked him as a feature artist at that point. But when he went at Kiss on that joint, I was like, shit. His Styles die on a holiday. Kiss die on a holiday. Shots like first of the year. I'm on the block like the first of the month. Oh my God. Oh. That make me miss rap. It really does. Don't ask me any more rap questions. DeAndre Dukes has 3 questions. 1, how do you feel about Raw on Netflix? It's been terrible. In a word, terrible. It's dragged a whole lot. I mean, the amount of drag they have on Netflix is embarrassing. I mean, it's just so slow. It's such a slow product. That's another problem I think the product is too slow. Everything feels so drawn out. The entrances feel like they're too long. The matches feel like they're too long. You see the same people every week. It just sometimes feels like one long episode of Raw, and it's like 2-3 weeks on the show. 2, do you think Darby Allin is the one to beat Jon Moxley? Not anymore. I think that they're going to go ahead and put the ball in Hangman's court, which is the right decision. Fucking guy left and decided to climb Mount Everest. That's great, but that was for his personal improvement or whatever. What about the company? This guy put the company first. He's been there. The crowd loves him. Go with Hangman. 3, how do you feel about WrestleMania going back to Las Vegas next year? I really don't care about WrestleMania going to Las Vegas. It really doesn't make me no difference. Prince Ali, the greatest. 1, he has 2 questions. 1, do you think what worked in the past will legitimately work now in wrestling in terms of boosting ratings and viewership? Depends on what it is. Do I think that you can do bra and panties matches and it'll work? Yes. Will they do it? No. They get so much negative attention for it. Do I think they could do fake brothers and sisters in wrestling now? No. Too many people know that it's not real. Do I think that they could get away with hitting somebody with a car in a storyline? Yes. Do I think that you can get away with setting somebody on fire in a storyline? Yes. There's a lot of storyline ideas you can get away with that worked in the past and that could work today. But then again, you also have to realize that standards and practices have changed. So some things that you kids can't do anymore, like you can't strangle people anymore, right? You used to be able to hang guys, like Boss Man got lynched at WrestleMania. You used to be able to do stuff like that. You can't do that shit anymore. You can't even do it on pay-per-views anymore. You can't cuss out the women anymore, call them whores, and all that. You can't even do that stuff anymore. There's a lot that you can't do anymore that you have to take into account. 2, I think we can have fun with the next question. If characters from all of fiction were to be professional wrestlers, who are you busting the next round? He says, pick 3 main eventers, 3 female superstars, 3 duos and tag teams, and 3 mid-carders. Oh, okay. So he gave me some examples like Superman, Goku, and Doctor Doom as main eventers. Female superstars, Revy from Black Lagoon. That's a pretty good choice. Wonder Woman, Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. That's also a good choice. Tag team, Spike and Jet from Cowboy Bebop. That's a good choice. Jules Winfield and Vincent Vega from Pulp Fiction. That's a great choice. That's an excellent tag team. And Gon and Killua from Hunter x Hunter, and from Mid Carter's Monkey D. Luffy, Edward Elric, and Naruto Uzumaki. Okay, let's see if I can do this. 3 main eventers. I want to pick the same guys you picked. Batman, Spider-Man, and for a main heel, let's go with. I don't want to say Thanos, because that's kind of obvious. Let's go with Ra's al Ghul, because he has or Ra's al Ghul, however you want to pronounce the shit. Because he has a faction, the League of Shadows. So you could put pretty much anybody in the League of Shadows. You also have Shiva. She could be one of your female superstars. I'm a big fan of Black Widow, the original Black Widow, Natasha. Big fan of Storm. I think Storm is a main event female superstar. Who else? Well, I wouldn't put Storm in the League of Shadows, but I'm talking about like being a female superstar. Elektra is another good female superstar. You could put her in the League of Shadows because the Hand is basically the League of Shadows. They're very similar. Daredevil is another one that I would probably pick, but main eventer, he'll probably be a solid mid-carder. Daredevil, he's one of my favorites too. Same thing with the Punisher. I think the Punisher is a good mid-carder. He can't beat everybody. I like Thor though. Thor is another good main event talent. Thor is a good main event talent. Let's see what other female characters. The Widow from Kill Bill. She'd be another big female superstar. Sheesh. Who else? Who else could I think of? Have anybody ever read Gunsmith Cats? Because the female lead in that book is pretty fucking cool too. She's a badass with a pistol. her name is slipping my mind at this point in time. I'm trying to look and see what the name of this fucking character is. What the fuck is her name? Shit. Fuck, I forgot what her name is. Oh, Rowley Vincent. There we go. That's her name. So Rowley Vincent from Gunsmith Cats for our female hero. Another good female, a good tag team. You're gonna move on to tag teams now. Good tag team. How about a mixed tag team? We go with Judge Dredd and Judge Anderson. You know, that's a good mixed tag team. How about that one for you? How about the tag team of Vashta Stampede and Nicholas D. Wolfwood? I think that's a really good tag team. They work very well together. What about the tag team of Michelangelo and Raphael? I think they're a good tag team. They work very well together in TMNT. They argue a lot, but that actually helps with the tag team. Or you could do Raphael and Casey Jones as a tag team. That would be a good tag team too, huh? I like that one. Batman and Robin, of course, is a good tag team. Let's see. I want to come up with another one. Another good tag team. I want at least to come up with one more, and then we'll move on to the mid carders. Let's say one more. I like Spike and Jet. I like that one. Oh, shit. Outlaw Star. James and Gene and James from Outlaw Star. Now the mid carders. I already said Daredevil. I said the Punisher, Conan the Barbarian, Elric Mendelbonet, is for mid Carter. Let's see what else. I don't want to say Kenshiro. I think Kenshiro from Outlaw. I mean not Outlaw Star, but Fist of the North Star. I think he's kind of a main event guy. I think. But I think Suichi from Parasite is a good mid Carter. Chainsaw Man, I think it's also a good mid Carter. Yusuke Urameshi. I don't know. Yusuke might be is he a main event guy? Nah, I think he's a solid mid Carter. I think he's a solid mid card guy. Also with Hiei, but maybe they're a good tag team like Hiei and Yusuke, or yeah, I think Hiei and Yusuke probably separate. Let's go with them separate. But yeah, this is a fun question. I like this one. This one was. I want more questions like that. Come up with stuff like that. The M Studios. He has 6 questions. He says, "What are your thoughts on John Cena as a mic worker? For me, I'm not a fan of him burying his opponents simply because these promos don't really help elevate the match or storyline. He's also too meta." Well, you're talking about John Cena currently. He's the shits. Right now, he's terrible. I don't like the way he's delivering the promo. I don't like his mannerisms. I don't like his tone of voice. I don't like nothing he's doing right now. I think he's terrible right now. A year or two ago, John Cena's one of the greatest promos in the business. He seemed to be flying off the cuff. He destroys guys, which is sometimes his fault, sometimes it's not. Like, it's not because he just pokes at things that everybody sees and brings your whole house of cards down. But I'm not so sure it's on purpose. But it's absolutely the kind of stuff that a Captain America, who is a main event guy, would say about you in order to hurt your feelings. But today, I'm not a big fan of what they're doing with John today. 2, is it me or is anyone getting Seth Rollins fatigue? I know he just turned heel and has a new faction, but at the same time, I feel he should go away for a while. He's been in the top spot for basically a decade. I just said that, right? I just said that. Yeah. Seth Rollins needs to go on vacation, dog. He needs to take like 2 years off. I think we need 2 years without Seth Rollins. And I don't even dislike Seth Rollins, but it seemed like he's been in the spotlight for so long that we will start taking him for granted because he never goes away. Like he hasn't had a serious injury, and I'm not saying he should get injured. I'm saying he hasn't had a serious injury since he fucked up his leg. And then he's been back consistently since 2016, 2017. You know? Um, at this point, like I said, if he's not a made man right now, he ain't gonna be. You feel me? 3, aside from Triple H, what wrestlers in the last 20 years do you think is highly overrated by WWE? Overrated. Oh geez. 20 years? Let's go back to 2005. Ooh. Well, I don't know how they rate people. You know, I don't think Cena's overrated. I don't think Orton's overrated. I think their rivalry is overrated, but that's about it. Um, I don't think Roman is overrated. Maybe Rollins is overrated. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say because he hasn't slowed down enough for us to really. Oh, Kevin Owens. That it popped into my head like a bolt from the blue. Fuck Kevin Owens. All right, he's gone for a while, but yeah, Kevin Owens, he sucks. So that's one guy. Um, I can't think of anybody else I think is like wildly overrated. You know, in WWE and all of wrestling, it'd be like Omega, Okada. You know, I roll my eyes whenever somebody's like, "My favorite wrestler is Kenny Omega." Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody's favorite wrestler is Kenny Omega. But I think Kevin Owens might be one of the most overrated. Um, to be fair, I I don't want to say Sasha Banks is the most overrated because I don't think she was given a whole lot. She was given a lot, and she main evented WrestleMania and everything, but I don't think she was like champion for like a year or anything like that. Like she wasn't champion long enough for me to be like, oh, this bitch getting on my nerves. She got on my nerves with all the complaining and the whining and stuff more than she wins too much or they're trying to put her over too much. Maybe Charlotte. Maybe Charlotte's not as great as they say she is. Maybe she is. I don't know. But Charlotte is like female Randy Orton, where she's such a standard that people don't want her to be any good. And they nitpick everything she does. And anytime she has a less than 100% great match, it's seen as she wasn't ever any good anyway. So, but Kevin Owens is probably number one for me in terms of most overrated WWE wrestler of 20 years. Yeah, fuck Kevin Owens. He had way too many pay-per-view main events. He sucks ass. 4, can a wrestler be a big star without being a main eventer and or being the world champion? If so, who in today's WWE or AEW can be that star? Well, yeah, you can be a big star without being a main eventer or being the world champion. It's happened a lot in wrestling, actually. The thing is, most guys tend to get there now. Like guys like Jake the Snake Roberts and Roddy Piper were never world champions. Superfly Jimmy Snuka was never the world champion. He's one of the top draws in the business. It's happened before. You can be a top guy and not be the world champion. That can happen. They were also considered main event guys. I mean, it's almost without question that you're going to end up being a main event guy if you're a big enough star. And it's just the way the business works. Then you got your guys who are kind of like budding, they were stars, but like a Ravishing Rick Rude. It's a star, but occasionally, every once in a while. It wasn't like a consistent main event guy. I'm talking about in the main companies. But today, who could be that guy today? It's hard to say, but a guy like a Ilya Dragunov, maybe, where people appreciate his work and how great he is, but he's never going to be like a consistent main event draw. I just don't think people are going to buy into him at that level for a sustained amount of time. He might be able to get like some Daniel Bryan runs in, you know, where he becomes the most over guy in the world for about 6 weeks, you know, and then he finally gets the belt, and people are kind of like, okay, we've seen it. That's it. Uh, I think that might be a guy like him. Uh, in AEW, I think Eddie Kingston is a guy who he's a big star to that fan base, and he's not a main event guy. But he's a Ring of Honor world champion, so I guess that technically he's already won the belt. But I think Eddie Kingston is one of those guys that he's a big star to the AEW fan base, but he's not going to be main eventing their major shows. I don't think, especially when he comes back. I don't think he's going to get there. 5. What was a booking decision that exposed Triple H as a bad booker, or at least not the great booker as some fans think he is? For me, it is how he handled the Cena retirement tour. I think this is going to be a black eye on his legacy. Him dropping the ball on this Cena retirement tour is going to be, like when Tommy Hearns got knocked out by Marvin Hagler. Except for he's no Tommy Hearns, right? For me, it's the Austin Theory Money in the Bank thing. It was so stupid. It was inconceivably stupid, right? Like, you have the Money in the Bank briefcase, and you have him cash in on the U.S. title and lose. That was the stupidest thing in the fucking world. It was so devoid of creativity. It was so dumb that it embarrassed and pretty much killed the Austin Theory character. Like, the Money in the Bank briefcase is something that you can transfer from one person to another. Like, let's say you just didn't want him to have it, then have him put it on the line and lose it to somebody else. Like, there's so many other creative things you could have done, but to do it like that and then hide behind well, he wasn't going to beat Roman anyway. Like, nobody was going to beat Roman anyway. That's not the point. The point is, you did something that was so stupid that it was almost malicious. And it goes to show that you are not creative. You're an idiot. All right? Because if you to say, Mongo, you have to take over the show right now, and all of the champions are the same, and you just have the creator from now on, how do you get the belt off guys like New Day and you don't want them to have it? I'm not going to have New Day just throw the belts in the garbage and walk away and say, fuck it, I don't. Well, what difference do they make? I'm putting my own guys in there. Like, no. I would create a storyline where they would lose the belts to guys that I like, or guys that I think could benefit. I wouldn't just spike the ball and say, well, too bad. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like it was 4th and goal with this guy. He just decided to spike the ball. Fuck you. He's going to boop, spike it. Not even going to kick a field goal. Not even going to try. Just going to throw it in the dirt and just call it a day. Like, that's bullshit, man. And he got exposed right then and there. It's one of the first things he did too, by the way. I think that was in the first 6 months of him having the company. He spiked the ball pretty damn quick. That was dumb. That was beyond fucking dumb. 6. What is something that the WWE currently can learn from Vince McMahon, business-wise and creative? I want to say, keep up the great work these past 5 years. Your channel has been awesome. I've learned about wrestling, characters, and storytelling from your channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. What is they can learn from Vince? They need to learn the magic. And the magic is, it's hard to put a finger on, but it's that you understand it, you get it if you watch like WWE from like 1986 to like 1992. You know, you could put your finger on it. You know, when you see Randy Savage, larger than life, Roddy Piper, the crowd is going nuts. It doesn't matter who they're wrestling. You know, you see the video packages and how they put the storylines together. You know, how the wrestlers just feel like they're coming alive and they're coming through the TV. Even the ridiculous characters like Papa Shango and shit, right? And the Repo Man. And another thing that Vince, you know, maintained that it wasn't there that strongly in the 80s and in the early 90s, but it came in like the mid 90s to the 2000s. The anything can happen. That's the magic right there. You know, that was what the Attitude Era was made special. Like Scotty 2 Hotty was never going to beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. So we don't mean like anything can happen. But like China winning the Intercontinental title out of nowhere. Like what the fuck? And it made sense. You know? Just weird things. You know, Mankind winning the title. When everybody knows like this whole thing is about building up The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then you have that Mankind road bump. You're like, oh shit. Now, of course, it didn't end that well for Mankind. He ended up wrestling fucking Big Show at WrestleMania that year. But you know, in today's world, it would have been a triple threat match, right? But back then, they just, you know, threw Mankind to the Big Show and called it a day. But that's what I mean. Like that, anything can happen within reason. That magic, that's something that they're absolutely missing today. And there were times where Vince had tried to force it, and it didn't quite work out. But then there's these times where he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. Cardi Cartoons has 3 questions. 1, what is your favorite cartoon? Regular cartoon, a good old American style cartoon. That's a good question. Probably Looney Tunes. I'm a Looney Tunes guy. You know, I have these spurts where I'll watch Looney Tunes cartoons on YouTube or something, and it reminds me a lot of when I was a kid watching the Merry Melodies. I'm a big fan of the Merry Melodies. I like that shit. Modern cartoons, though, I'm not really too much into them. I think Samurai Jack was the last one I was really into. Um, but you know, Thundercats and He-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the X-Men cartoon, those were fun. What channels do you watch in the YWC? That's the thing. I really don't have time to watch a lot of other channels. I do watch Wrestling Soup. I do watch Don Tony. I used to watch a lot of Ring Rust Radio. I don't watch much. I don't listen to them as much anymore. I haven't listened to them in over a year, actually, maybe over 5 years. I haven't listened to them since I started my channel, actually. Now that I think about it, but that would probably be it. I listen to clips of Conan and Disco, but they're constantly like, eating into the microphone, and Conan's falling asleep and he doesn't know what the topics are anymore. It's like, oh, get real. I don't want to listen to this shit. But I don't listen to like, it's rare that I listen to something that's over 20 minutes, you know, because I just don't have time. Usually I'm watching something for the channel or just expanding my knowledge on things, political subjects, history, and stuff like that. Like I consume enough wrestling. I don't know about, you know, going into wrestling commentary, but I consume enough wrestling. I mean, if it's a subject that I'm interested in, I'll certainly pop a clip, you know, hit the link and see what's going on. You know, that's how I end up finding very weird channels like and especially if I can learn something. I forget, and I don't know if I actually did this or not. I said I was going to expose that one channel that was just reading Wikipedia, because I literally watched him do it. Like, I was sitting. That's why I stopped listening to wrestling YouTubers too, because he was doing a history thing, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And he was going through yada yada yada, and then I was like, wait a second, and I went to the Wikipedia, and as I was looking through the Wikipedia, it was reading it word for word from the Wikipedia. I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this shit anymore. But oh yeah, I like Kim Justice. I like Kim Justice too. He, she, they. I don't know. I heard a lot of things about that channel, but he does like the Japanese wrestling stuff. Um, and if there's a subject, well, for starters, I like listening to people talk about things that they like. So he likes Japanese wrestling. I like listening to him talk about Japanese wrestling. It's shit that I'll never go and watch myself, because there's no way I'm about to sit through like 42,000 fucking Kenta Kobashi versus Stan Hansen tag team matches. I'll watch the singles matches. I ain't watching the tag matches though. And I'm not about to watch, 7 hours of Joshi wrestling either. I'm not about to do that. I've tried. I tried watching Joshi wrestling at least once a year. It just never sticks. It just never sticks. Nothing like good old American pro wrestling, bro. And I will sit here and watch like AWA women's wrestling. It's not even the fact that it's women's wrestling. I'll watch Sherry and Medusa, and I watch like Rockin' Robin and Sherry wrestle on house shows and stuff like that. It's not even that it's women's wrestling. It's just Japanese wrestling is fucking boring to me, and it has to be a certain kind. Like, I like Hayabusa and the Great Sasuke and Jushin Thunder Liger. I like the juniors, right? But then there is a lot of boring juniors. Like right now, like the best of Super Juniors is fucking terrible. It's terrible, right? Like what everybody is talking about is Ninja Mac doing the flip spot, and now he's doing it in every fucking match. So look, who cares, man? Like, this ain't burnt the shit out. It's done for, right? So now I just watch El Desperado matches. So whenever his match is about to happen, I'll watch him, and it depends on his opponent. Like, I watched him wrestle Ishimori. I think I watched him wrestle Kevin Knight. I like Show before they turned him heel. I don't know why they decided to do that. That was years ago though. But I watched El Desperado wrestle Show. But that's the only thing I'm watching on Best of Super Juniors right now. But how did I get on the Best of Super Juniors? Anyway, what's your favorite era of YouTube? I don't really have one. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I really didn't know that much about YouTube when I got on it. Again, I've only been on YouTube for 5 years, and I didn't know that much about YouTube when I got on it. Most of the time before I started really doing videos myself, I was consuming a lot of political stuff. William Graham has a question. It says, apparently Jonathan Coachman said Vince wants to buy the company back. Let's say if he does that, what are 5 things you want him to do? Well, for starters, TKO is not going to sell it to him, so he can want whatever he wants. They're not going to get it back. But let's say he does. The 5 things that I want him to do. I want him to leave the production alone. I like that the production has changed. The different camera angles, and I like that sort of stuff. Leave that stuff alone. Get rid of that shit in the ring. I don't want no ad space in the ring. Get rid of it. Put it on the ring aprons. Put it on the goalpost. Put it on the desk. You want to have a prime hydration station? I don't care. But get that shit out of the ring. Get it out of the ring. What else would I want Vince to do? Basically, I just implement some kind of better creative vision. Vince is really good at finding a top guy and deciding that's going to be our guy. That's the guy we're going with, and then trying to make him. Triple H doesn't seem to have that sort of vision. Like, Braun Breaker is a sidekick for Seth Rollins. I'm not a fan of that. Seth, Braun Breaker should be the guy you should be building around. I get it. You're just trying to give him the rub, but eventually he's going to end up like Solo Sikoa, where he's going to be the pin eater of the group, which is going to suck. That's nobody wants to deal with that. So get rid of the shit in the ring. Leave production alone. Maybe get rid of these 2-hour pre-shows that they have, but he started that, so no, he probably not gonna get rid of that. I can't think of other things that I would like for him to do. Basically, I just want the creative to change, and I want some fewer commercials. But there's nothing you can do about that. It's necessary for business. So there's not much you can do. William Graham has 5 more questions. 1, what is this the worst year since 1995? No, it's not. It's not. It's pretty bad right now. But no, 95 was the shits. But there's some there in the middle, like the 2012s, the 2013s that weren't very good. There was some of the late teens, like 2018, 19 weren't very good. 2020 is kind of a what can you do? It was pandemic. So 2020 and 2021 is pandemic shit. So you can't really do anything about that. But creatively, there's like a decade of WWE that was this kind of flew by. There's pay-per-views from like 2014, 2015, 2013 that I haven't bothered to watch. I'm not even gonna hold you up. Like I was just floating through Peacock and I saw Battleground 2015. Didn't even know that show existed. So, I don't know what's on it. I just saw Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, and I was like, maybe next time, and just kept scrolling. Usually I throw wrestling shows on, and this is how I end up watching everything, because I'll throw a wrestling show on to read a book. Like I'm gonna do that later, and I end up watching shows like that. So I end up watching like hours and hours and hours of wrestling, but it seems like I'm watching hours and hours and hours of wrestling, but I'm literally just reading a comic book or reading a book while the wrestling show is on. And if a match that I want to watch is happening, I will watch that match, and then that's it, So that's how I've been watching a bunch of shit lately. I've been watching a lot of shit in passing. 2, do you think Diddy walks or a favorable deal with the facts Cassie consented to the acts? Will this divide the gender or black community like when Kevin Samuels came to the scene? Diddy is not going to walk. They're not going to let him walk. What I said it from the beginning. What's going to happen? He's going to get convicted, and then maybe through like Weinstein or Cosby, they're going to find some way to get him out. But he's going to get convicted, and then there's going to be some kind of chicanery, and he's going to get let out. Right now, they're not even talking about sex trafficking. They talk about him blowing up Kid Cudi's car. They talk about him eating hamburgers with applesauce. Like, what the fuck does it have anything to do with sex trafficking? They basically are saying Diddy's a bad guy. Like, yeah, we already know that. Like, where's the sex trafficking actually? Like he's a shitty person. Yeah, he is. And we've known that even when he was smiling on TV all the time, we knew he wasn't right. They're gonna make a movie out of this Negro, I'm telling you. 4, a policy question. With whites becoming openly racist towards blacks with the Austin Metcalf case, will this ruin any chance of the right assuming office after Trump leaves? No, because the people who are upset about this Austin Metcalf thing, a lot of them are race grifters anyway. Both sides, these people are race grifters anyway. All right. The average Joes are not taking it racially, but the grifters are grifting. This is what they do. The Elijah Schaefers and what's that other dork? The Groypers, all them, they're race grifters anyway. This is what they do. All the race grifters on the right, in the left, this is what they do. So no, I don't think it'll have a problem. I think the right will have a problem because they will not have a unifier like Trump. That's going to be the problem. Black people like Donald Trump. A lot of people do. They're not necessarily liking Republicans though, especially since they didn't fucked up everything. Like, it was good times when Trump first got in office, and Doge was doing their thing, and then Trump came up with the quote unquote big beautiful bill, and everybody was like, "Oh fuck, this is bullshit here," and it is, and he's going to end up ruining it for the next Republican. But I think what's important is that black people stop voting for fucking socialist idiots like AOC. Like, that's the important thing. I don't give a fuck who you vote for. Just stop voting for crazy socialists and Democrats and shit. Just stop it. Stop doing that. But race grifters are going to race grift. That's what they're going to do. And you have to realize that they're going to take every opportunity to race grift. And this is why, James Lindsay came up with the whole woke right thing. Because it's the exact same shit. It's just from the right side of the political spectrum. And it's not necessarily white people either. It's also woke blacks. There's a lot of woke blacks who are defending the whole South Africa kill the Boer shit. These people are ridiculous. But a lot of this stuff is people who are going to racialize everything anyway. I don't pay them people no attention. 4, if you were in charge of a retirement tour, which wrestler would you like to retire and the top 3 feuds they'd have in their final opponent? Well, I would like to pick the final tour of like Randy Orton or CM Punk. Now, it's going to be difficult for them because Cena's going to be gone by that time. But if you learn about the character of CM Punk, to do a retirement tour for Punk could be fine. And if you know anything about him, you probably could do a CM Punk retirement tour and book it sort of like the summer of Punk. And I think that's what they tried to do with John Cena. They're trying to make the summer of Cena, the year of Cena, whatever, where he turns heel and there's a clock to him leaving and all this sort of, it ain't working. It ain't working. But I think like the final summer of Punk or something like that could be fine. Obviously, it would mean he wins the title and goes out with some level of dignity and some great matches. But I don't know who you would pick to be his like chief rival outside of like Seth Rollins, and because you can't use Kevin Owens. I mean, the Ring of Honor guys could be good to use, but Owens is not there. And Zayn is an eternal babyface, so maybe you turn Punk heel. I don't know. But Randy Orton would be another good one to do. But all his peers are gone. Randy's gonna be by himself in a moment because Edge is gone, Cena's gone, everybody else is retired. He had no peers, so there's nobody you can really do. But you have to, Cody, and that would probably be the final opponent. It's Cody, and I think they should have done that anyway. They should have done the Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes match, the teacher versus student gimmick. That could have been fun. Or you could have like maybe the final year of Brock Lesnar, and you probably could have finally got a straight up Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar match, which for some reason Vince didn't want to book that. Why didn't he? I don't understand why he didn't have Brock versus Batista or Brock versus Randy. I know he technically put Brock versus Randy in the ring together, but it wasn't a match. Like it was just like Brock breaking Randy Orton's head open. And I don't even understand the point of that. He just did it. Like, holy shit. 3, his fifth question. With Doomsday becoming a 3-parter and delayed, rumors of Black, Charles Xavier, and Magneto, and that Ball Cynthia Erivo to play Storm, how doomed is the MCU? Oh, they completely totally fucked. If that woman, that very, very ugly, unattractive woman ends up playing Storm from the X-Men, they're cooked. They're thoroughly boiled. It's over. All right? You can forget it. That's a ugly woman. All right. And even if you put a wig on her, she's not going to be attractive. She's an ugly woman. Well, whatever. They love her though in Hollywood because she must be like a super gay or something like that. Black saying 97. I didn't even see these questions. One, what's your favorite Batman comic that you have read? Ooh. Hmm. I'm going to assume you mean graphic novel. Because I don't think you were talking about a single issue. That would be crazy. Uh Graphic novel, probably Under the Red Hood. If you have read Death in the Family and Under the Red Hood, you have read really good Batman at that point. The Long Halloween is also very good. Obviously, The Dark Knight is very good. Batman Year One is also very good. But Under the Red Hood is very emotional, and I like it. I like it for that reason. That is very emotional. For those of you who don't know about Under the Red Hood, it's it happens I think 20 years after Death in the Family. So Death in the Family is the death of Robin. It's the death of Jason Todd Robin. Jason Todd is the second Robin, right? So they did this whole thing where DC Comics basically said, are we gonna kill Robin off? Is he gonna live? Is he gonna die? And the people got to vote and they killed him. Right? He got beat to death. Well, he didn't get beat to death with a crowbar. He got beat to shit with a crowbar and then blown up in a shed, a warehouse or something like that. And he was dead for a really long time. And then Under the Red Hood, he's resurrected as the Red Hood, and he's basically a anti-hero. He technically should be a villain, but whatever. And just that character arc is wonderful. Now, Marvel did something similar with the Winter Soldier, where they Bucky, the sidekick of Captain America, he dies. But he dies years and years and years ago. It's not as impactful as Death in the Family. And he is returned as the Winter Soldier. And this was by Ed Brubaker. I liked the Winter Soldier too. I like both of those angles because they were very well written. But Under the Red Hood, what made it more impactful for me was I watched the cartoon movie, and it was so well done. The cartoon movie is so well done. The graphic novel, I have that the paperback, but it also has that weird 4-part thing where he was being trained and having sex with Damien's mother. Like, hell no, that's odd. That's some odd shit right there, brother. But um, I'm a big fan of Under the Red Hood and Batman Year One and Batman Dark Knight Rises, Long Halloween. I'm a big fan of those joints. Two, have you ever listened to Nipsey Hussle? Yes, I did. I listened to his early mixtapes during the blog era. Wasn't a big fan. Um, I think he finally hit his stride when he had that album he was selling for $100, and that ended up being one of the best marketing gimmicks he's ever did. It made sure he was a really smart nigga when he did that. But he actually got better as a rapper and making music after that too. So yes, tracks like Hustle and Motivate. Um, what's that other one? Shit, there's a couple of tracks, and not a whole lot, obviously, 'cause that's why I can't think of that many. But yes, there was a couple that he made that I thought were pretty good. Three, do you think Denzel Washington is the greatest black actor of all time? Oh, without question. I think he's in the realm of great black, not even great black actors, just great actors, period. I think he's done enough to be in the same conversation with guys like Pacino and De Niro, you know? And he has done so much more. Well, I won't say he's done more than they have. I think sometimes they got pigeonholed into the gangster movies, while Denzel, the beginning of his career, he was sort of the leading man in these goofy ass romance movies. And then he got into the real Oscar bait shit like Glory. But the last 30 years, you can't miss with a Denzel movie. You know, not all of them are great, but none of them are bad. You know. Um, Four. What's your favorite Spike Lee movie? Ooh, ooh, it's a tough one. I want to say Mo Better Blues, which of course piggybacks right off of what I just said. But Malcolm X, I think, is the best. I think Malcolm X is technically the best movie Spike Lee ever did. I'm in the conversation with Mo Better Blues though, because I liked the story that they were telling there. I also was a big fan of Clockers. I think Clockers was pretty funny, pretty good movie. Um, I kind of like Spike Lee movies. Go back to my Blackity Black days. I like those. Those were those were staples of the Blackity Black days. I still like those movies though. I just look at it from a different perspective now. But yeah, I'm probably going to say Malcolm X. I think Malcolm X is the best movie. I think he put his heart into that. He still had a lot of the Spike Lee tropes in it, but I think he really put his heart into that movie. Five. Did you ever watch Adult Swim or Toonami? Man, what do you mean? I grew up on Adult Swim and Toonami. I was a Toonami. I didn't come home from school and watch Toonami though because I didn't go to school. So I was like, I had it on Cartoon Network all the time. Waiting for Dragon Ball to start. But yeah, I remember when Adult Swim started. I remember that the first time I saw Cowboy Bebop, and they had what was that? What was that other show? The show with the kid with the harem, and I never watched that show. I never got into it. But not Yu Yu Hakusho. That would be a Toonami. I like Toonami because of Yu Yu Hakusho, and I like Gundam, and I like Dragon Ball, and they had that one show with the guy with the flaming arm. I don't remember what it was called. And then you had Adult Swim. You had Outlaw Star. You had Trigun. You had Bebop, Samurai Champloo. Not enough people talk about Samurai Champloo. Right? Samurai Champloo is really good. Mugen is another good character too. You know, Mugen and Gene. That's a good tag team, huh? Um, but Samurai Champloo is one of those shows that's a lot like Cowboy Bebop, and it's a lot like Black Lagoon. And you know what? It's a really good storytelling device that they do. They don't tell you shit about those characters. You just basically jump in, and the characters are already formed. They already exist. They already have a history. You just don't know anything about it. And then as you watch the show, their characters become revealed. Their backstories, where they came from, who trained them, yada yada yada. And that's a really good storytelling device that you don't see in a lot of stories these days. Tenchi Muyo, that's exactly. I hate that fucking show. I didn't watch it. I tried watching it. I couldn't get into it. I tried. Big Armada says, I knew Doge was cooked from that first big spending bill Trump signed in order to own the libs. The tariffs and the spending bills, yeah, he defeated the purpose. He defeated the point. Hey, Virgo Rebel Penguin, how you doing, sweetheart? Nice to see you. Degenerate Sharingan says, so I think I just saw a social media post that Alberto had attacked by Vikingo's father on a talk show. Wait, he attacked Vikingo's father, or was he attacked by Vikingo? They having that match tomorrow, so I don't. Maybe that's what they're building up for. Everybody already knows he's losing, so he might as well just go ahead and make the most of it. Mercedes Moné is overrated. I don't want to say that though. I mean, I like old Sasha Banks. I just don't like her as a person. I like her as a performer. I just think she's a weirdo, and she's very egotistical, very very egotistical. Rollins is widely overrated. I think a lot of people say Seth Rollins. I think so many people say he's overrated that it's impossible for him to be overrated because everybody hates him. All the dirt sheet guys hate him. All the tape traders and the guys who are watching Giant Baba clips, they hate Seth Rollins. Like so many people hate Seth Rollins that it's almost impossible for him to be overrated. He is one of the most unnecessarily hated dudes in the wrestling space. They hate Seth Rollins. It's ridiculous how much they hate Seth Rollins. He's a work rate guy, and they hate him because he's a work rate guy in WWE. Degenerate Sharingan says Severance has never actually had a clearly defined character. It's just mostly character rebrands. I feel like I'm missing something here. Prince Ali says Starfire and Raven are also gimmicks. I consider Starfire an uber babyface, while Raven is an heelish anti-hero who beats up people worse than her. The thing, I'm not really a big Teen Titans guy. I have a Starfire comic right here. I just got this from the dollar bin because it's the only thing I can afford. Fuck. But it's Marv Wolfman, and it is about her home planet and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not really a big Teen Titans guy, but I do like things that are focused on Starfire. She's an interesting character. She reminds me a lot of Storm. And, she's one of those visually striking characters that you're kind of like, oh, what's this? And then you want to know more. And plus Marv Wolfman is amazing. Did I miss any other questions? I don't know. Steven Smith says, I got a question. Do you see 5 and 10 years that TKO is going to sell WWE to Saudi Arabia? Also, they plan on buying the WWC. You mean the World Wrestling? You mean Carlito's daddy's promotion? I thought they already bought the tapes from them. I thought they bought the tapes from them years ago. Why do they want to buy the promotion? I don't know. Look, Puerto Rico is what it is. I guess Puerto Rico, Mexico. But I thought they bought the tapes from Carlito's daddy a long time ago. But 5 to 10 years seems about right. That TKO would have drained all they could from WWE. They're going to reach their peak, and then probably sell it to some Saudi sheik. And if Vince is still alive, he's probably going to want a piece of it. That might be how Vince gets it back. Maybe he borrows $500 billion from some Saudi sheik and promises them every WrestleMania from now until he's dead if they finance his purchase of WWE. That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be one hell of a deal because they would have to take it due to their shareholders or whatever. Sir John Legion, what is Zelina's gimmick? Puerto Rican girl. That's a good question. What is her gimmick? She is Puerto Rican, but she don't speak Spanish. So, unlike Damian Priest, she don't speak Spanish. So I remember I think I read on a message board not long ago how much people hate her for that. And I didn't know it. I swear I didn't. And people hate people for stupid reasons. But I thought a Hispanic. I think I did a video on that about the Hispanics being mad at other Hispanics for not speaking Spanish because like Bailey doesn't speak Spanish either, and she's Hispanic from California, and they're like, "Oh, she's not a real Boricua. She don't speak no Spanish." I'm like, oh boy, that's what it takes now. We gotta jump through all these fucking hoops. Do you watch Transformers? I tried, man. I tried. I watched all the Michael Bay movies. I didn't watch the cartoons though. I tried though. I'm more of a GI Joe guy. I was far more into GI Joe than Transformers as a kid. I couldn't tell you why. I think I was more into because GI Joe has all this stuff that I like. Like I like big giant robots. That shit's cool. But GI Joe had soldiers, and ninjas. And I fucks with soldiers and ninjas, man. He's right up my alley, brother. You got me. Soldiers and ninjas are right up my alley. Did I watch Daria? I did. I love Daria. Not as much as I love Beavis and Butthead. I thought it was a more mature show. And I like Daria. I always wondered why, once they separated Daria from Beavis and Butthead, they never put them back together. Like they never did like a crossover or anything like that. So, but I guess they wanted it to be a completely different franchise. But Daria was a fun show back then. Any thoughts on the latest Janelle Grant development? Well, that video is going to be up in 15 minutes, if I remember correctly. I think I timed it to be up at 10 o'clock, either 10 or 11, one of the two. The Generation Hunger says, I was saying that Seth Rollins never actually had a clear, defined character. Well, he did when he was the Monday Night Messiah. The only thing is we didn't know what he wanted because we never got that far. Like we never got the far to the point of, because they keep saying that he's the visionary, he's an architect, he's this and he's that, but he never had like a mission statement. And he's still today doing the same damn thing. It's been 5 years, 6 years. And Seth Rollins being the visionary, the revolutionary, and we don't know what that means, right? Like we get it, but we don't know what it means. And I actually do think he was the right guy to do the Monday Night Messiah, and they stole the idea from Elias because he was doing Punk Rock Jesus on the Indies. I think he was the right guy to do it. Not gonna lie, I thought he was good. I like Monday Night Messiah. He was great. The Generation Sharingan says, if that's the case, I believe that Cena isn't overrated since people hated him since like 2005, 2006. Yeah, I mean, Cena wasn't getting any credit for anything, brother. He wasn't getting no love. They didn't show him no love. It was completely unfair. It was like cartoonish hate. I got to refresh to see there's more questions being dumped in there while the show's going on. I'm going to tell you, folks, it's not a good idea to do that. Wait, where's the damn questions at? I don't see them. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. They hate Seth because he is a WWE indie work rate guy who actually likes WWE. They can't stand it. They will watch anybody. They were cheering bums like Rhino. Like, come on, man, get real. Who the hell likes Rhino? I'm not even gonna lie, man. I don't think people have no taste. Have you ever seen the show Lazarus? No. Is it based off the comic book Lazarus? Because I did see those comic books in like the thrift shop, and I didn't know what they were about. But I also heard they were gonna make a TV show out of it. Like I heard they were making a TV show out of that out of the comic book Deadly Class. I think I watched the first episode and didn't catch the rest of it. But then they canceled it. And I was like, well, there's no point in going back. There's no point in going back to that. But Deadly Class is really good as a comic, though. Wagwan just passing through before my break ends. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much. He says, as far as I'm concerned, that's just another character rebrand of Rollins. Yeah, I mean, I think the Monday Night Messiah is a legitimate character. The problem is it just went nowhere because we never found out what his message was. He just started dressing weird in like 2021. Like he was wearing all black in 2020, and he was hanging around with disciples of Apocalypse, the Apocalypse guys. Who the fuck? AOP. He was hanging around with them and Buddy Murphy, and he was stabbing people in the face with stairs, which was great. I loved that shit. That's the stuff I'm talking about. That's what we need more of. We need more guys stabbing people in the face with chairs and stairs and stuff, right? And he ended up having that really stupid feud with Kevin Owens. And That's when I was kind of like, I think he stabbed Aleister Black in the face with the stairs after he feuded with Kevin Owens, but he kind of lost his way, and next thing you know, he's wearing goofy shades and he's dressing weird and he's doing the voice and he's doing the laugh, and I'm like, oh hell no, oh no 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 no. He said, so what is Daria like as a show in the character? Daria is very deadpan. She's sort of the straight character in her show. She's like surrounded by all of these other really bizarre characters. Specifically, she's the oddball, the black sheep of her family, because her sister is like a cheerleader and all this kind of stuff. And Daria has, difficulties. She has regular teenage issues. It's like because it was on MTV, the whole concept is that everything is built around teenage angst. So they wanted to have all the different kinds of teenagers that you could have, and Daria was kind of like the isolated, dark, kind of gothic sort of character. Not gothic completely, but kind of. And contrast that with her sister, who was like this blonde bimbo, who was a cheerleader and all this kind of stuff. And all of her friends who are sort of normal people, and Daria's not normal. And she's a smart ass, kind of rude to a degree, and how she's socially awkward and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like she is in Beavis and Butthead. But just more because there's more of her in that show. You said actually Cowboy Bebop. That's based on what? Severance? Oh, what happened? WWE TNA Post says, what are the chance WWE Evolution flops like the first one did back in 2019? I don't think so this time. I think they're going to do better this time. I don't think it's going to be great, but I think it's going to do better. Darren Miles says, will we ever get a Dude Bro channel again like Sci-Fi or G4, Spike TV, mid-2000s? Nope, because it flopped. They killed those channels, by the way. Like, G4 was a fun fucking channel for guys. That's when I first started seeing anime on TV outside of Toonami, right, and Adult Swim. And they started having like Heat Guy J on MTV, but that was after I saw the stuff on G4, and video game channel. Oh, that shit was so fun. They used to show these anime movies like 2 a.m. I started seeing like really crazy anime movies, and at some of those anime movies, I've been actually trying to find them, but I can't find them. I don't remember what any of them are. Like, I used to always catch them like right in the middle, because I would get done after like a long run of video games and just turn on G4, and there'd be some anime movie on. I'd just sit there and watch it, and then by the time I go back to sleep, I'd probably be back on the video game. That's how I spent my teenage years. I wasn't high or anything. Yep, Anime Unleashed or G4. I need to figure out, maybe if I could Google that, it'll show me like what showed up on that package, and I can figure out what those animes were that I was trying to watch as a kid. That's a good nod. Thank you very much. Darren Miles says he's been trying to watch Raw in chronological order. Does Netflix have all the episodes, or are they scattered like Peacock? Peacock has them all in order. Watching Raw in chronological order, that's tough. I tried it. I didn't get through the first 8 episodes. I was like, man, this shit's tough. This mostly because it's the commentary. Commentary's so bad. That Rod Bartlett guy, he's the shits. Are we watching Judgment Day 2007 on Saturday or Thursday? It'll probably be this weekend. It depends on. I might do 2 live streams this weekend because I know we got to catch up. So I might do 2 live streams this weekend. Oh, here it is. Anime Current. Gungrave was on there. Hell no. I didn't see Gungrave on there because I saw Gungrave when I got it on DVD. And I got it on DVD because I played the video game. And the video game is fun. Black Lagoon, didn't see that on there. I saw it on Toonami. At least I'm pretty sure I saw Black Lagoon on Toonami. Ergo Proxy, no, I don't remember that. Paranoia Agent, I do remember that. I do remember Trigun. I don't remember this being on Anime Current though. This is on G4 Canada. It said it was similar to Anime Unleashed, so it's different. Let me go to Anime Unleashed. I used to love American Ninja Warrior. Okay, here it is. So Cromartie High School got Gungrave. Read or Die, the TV show. I remember the movie. I don't remember the TV show. Yeah, I don't see anything. They used to show like these movies though, these anime movies that aired on G4. I'm going to find those movies because now you can put it on my mind. So now I got to find out where they are. Monster? No, I didn't. It wasn't Monster. Why is Myron Gaines now speaking at colleges basically complaining about women? Still, what happened to just letting women go into shadow realm of poor decision making in their life? Because he's a grifter. He's a fucking grifter. I don't know why people even talk to that guy. Like the fresh and fit guys are clowns, and everybody should know that by now. But as long as people want to hear it, then people will listen to him, I guess. Now y'all done got me distracted. I'm looking at this damn. I'm trying to look up all these G4 animated movies. I'm trying not to get too distracted by this. I think we're done here though. I don't see any more extra questions or anything. Yeah, Fresh and Fit got exposed a long time ago for being simps. One of them was basically paying a girl to be his girlfriend. He sucks. I didn't like Psychopaths. Gurren Lagann was okay. Why am I looking at this shit? I was supposed to be looking for the movies that aired on G4 Network, and I ended up on Reddit. How did that happen? Fuck. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out eventually. I'm going to figure it out. How come they kill those dude bro channels? A lot of them were misogynistic. They, in their words, of course. But a lot of it was that things like Spike, they were owned by the same people who owned MTV. So they were basically competing against each other because MTV used to be a very guy heavy network as well. But MTV used to also lean in the same, the demographic of teenagers and young adults. Like, you remember the VJs, you'd be like 25. That was it. So there was like young people, very heavy young people in MTV. But Spike was just basically for guys, but they went so far into the gimmick that it was the only thing that worked on the fucking network was WWE and UFC. Like, that was it. Like, I remember when they first launched Spike as a network for men. And they had all these crazy cartoons. Like, they had the Kelsey Grammer cartoon. Then they had Stripperella, which was like the what was the Baywatch chick, Pamela Anderson. It's like those shows didn't stick. They didn't do that well. And that's basically what killed the network is they invested in so many shows that didn't stick. And the only things that really worked was WWE and UFC. And I don't think anything else was really successful on Spike. They showed a bunch of action movies, but by that time people had already seen those movies. But G4, of course, got killed likely because video games and anime is for nerds, and who the hell wants to have a nerd channel? Armitage 3 is one of those movies. I like Armitage. I got it on DVD though. I got Armitage and I got that and the next one, Armitage 3, whichever the sequel is. I think there's 3 of those movies. I think I only got 2 of them. I don't know. But I'm looking at this G4 stuff now, and I'm just remembering all the good times, like American Ninja Warrior. I loved American Ninja Warrior, bro. It was just fun shit. Was it Tech? Here's Tech TV. You say, are you the only one that likes Vince's later stuff, especially the 2021, 22? I liked near the end. I think he was starting to get stronger. We were really starting to get some good shit because that's when the Bloodline started taking off in front of live crowds, and they were doing good stuff in front of live crowds. And that and the Ezekiel, the Kevin Owens stuff, I was retarded, and I do like that. I did like that too. All right, so here's the Anime News Network. They have a list of Tech TV movies, and here is Armitage. But I said I already knew about that. I don't know, Banner of the Stars. Like, what is that? What's that? I don't know what that is. What's that? Let me see what this is. I'm gonna be here all day with this. I'm about to wrap this thing up. You said ain't Armitage the one with Julia Lewis voicing the character? I don't know who the fuck played the character in that movie. I only watched it in Japanese. I never watched it in English, which is crazy because like I said, I have it on DVD and I haven't never listened to the English version. Why do previous generations don't admit that they were stupid? Like, well, ego is a motherfucker, isn't it? Better Man? What the fuck is a better man? I've never heard of this. Come on, what's that show it was a movie that I was watching. I couldn't even remember what the fuck it was, and I'm sitting here looking for it. I can't remember a damn thing about it, but there are certain things about the movie I remember. I just can't put it in words. All right, y'all. I'm about to wrap this thing up. Thanks everybody for stopping by. We'll probably be back. I don't think there's anything going on Saturday. So maybe we'll come back and we'll watch Judgment Day 2007 as a watch along. And if there is any other things I want to discuss, like cultural shit, I'll do that. But until then, thank you guys for your time. Peace out.